Today's classic series tune is the 6/8 March Bonny Dundee. This is a wonderful and popular 6/8 march played by pipe bands all over the world. And as we've done in all of the tunes in this series, we're going to break it down super slow, a little bit faster, and then finally full speed with everything written out. In the description below, there's a link to the PDF document of line 1 of Bonny Dundee, which we're going through in this video today. But if you wanted access to the entire tune, a PDF with all the parts of Bonny Dundee, as well as play-along MP3 files to help you make sure you're matching up with everything we're doing, you can head over to my Patreon and join at the Thistle level, or purchase just this tune right here from the link you see and in the description. So looking at the document here, we're taking the first line of Bonny Dundee, and a line in pipe music typically is 4 measures. I've actually spelt this out so much that I've actually broken it up into 2 separate lines of music here, so we're not jamming all the notes together. I want us to be able to visually make out what we're looking at a little better. But we've slowed this down by 4 times, so things are really open. I've also taken all of the ornaments or embellishments and spelt them out. So a grip goes from looking like this to looking like that. So you can see that the low G's now are individual notes that you can play along with the metronome, know exactly when they're timed, and make sure they're good, clean, and accurate. So let's try the pickup measure into the first full measure of Bonny Dundee, broken down 4 times slowly in 12/4 time here. Bum bum bum, do do bum da dum, do dum. So you can see here we have the grip spelled out and we have the E doubling spelled out. So yes, that is an F grace note separating those 2 E's. That's this guy right here. But again, this will help us properly execute all the various technical bits within this tune. Let's try the second full measure starting from that high A. Now let's try the pickup measure and these 2 measures all together. At this point, yes, it feels far more like a finger exercise than it does a tune. But again, we're trying to learn how to make sure we're moving all of these things correctly and at the right time, even if in slow motion, so we're ready when we speed it up. Now let's do the first measure of the second line we have here. Bum, bum, bo, bum, bum, bum. So again, quarter note's getting 1 beat right now. The dotted half note's getting 3. A normal half note would get 2. Adding the dot to make it 3, followed by a half note, so 2. Then back to a quarter, dotted half, and a half. Then in this final measure of line 1 here, we have a G grace note to a B that's 3 beats long, and then a spelled out taralua from B to B. So you can see each of the low G's as 8th notes here, separated by a D grace note, then an E grace note taking up to the final B, followed by a B doubling, again spelled out, so it looks like that. And then I've gone ahead and thrown in the 2 final notes, which are actually the pickup notes, into the next measure, but we'll go ahead and play them here. Now let's try both measures 3 and 4, the second line here, together. Now let's try the entirety, lines 1 and 2. So while a metronome is super useful, if you're just starting this tune and these long counts are maybe a little bit more math than you want to hold in your head, you could try playing this without a metronome. Play the half notes long, play the dotted half notes even longer, play the eighth notes relatively quickly. You can use some approximate timing the first time you're doing this. If that starts feeling good and you want to use a metronome, feel free to grab a pencil and write on here how many beats you're holding each one of these. It can be a little much to hold in your head, but if you actually wrote a little 3 above that dotted half note there, you would know it's hold for 3 beats. While you're listening to your metronome, you can kind of keep counting that in your head. You can actually use a little math brain power in there too. So in the second section of this document here, we're now playing the first line of Bonny Dundee at half speed. We're still giving the quarter note the beat, so this is now that first measure, going to be starting with that 8th note on an off beat. Ba-dum, bum. And everything we just did, it's just going to be, well, faster. It's all twice as quick. So we're going to go ahead and slow the metronome down a hair. I have it at 88 here. Again, the quarter note is getting the beat. 8th notes are getting half of a beat. 16th notes getting a quarter of the beat. Let's hear how the pickup measure and first full measure of the tune sound. You can hear it's really starting to come together. From what we were doing before to this version now, Bonny Dundee, I can hear the melody now. Let's go ahead and try the measure after that, starting on that high A. And to put that whole line together. Yeah, this is a great tune. Let's try all of line 2 now, starting with that G grace note on C. And if that's too fast for you, by all means, again, slow down the metronome, or even try it a few times without the metronome. But try to get all those little bits in there, the low Gs of your taralua, the low Gs in your grips, the individual sounding tones in your various doublings, the E doubling and B doubling. Keep this thing clean. You got this. So moving on to the third section, this is the tune at full speed. You can see it's in 6/8 time, and you can see the section underneath is also in 6/8 time. These are actually played exactly the same. You can see why we might choose to write our notes as embellishments. When you look at the bottom one, it's just clearer and easier to read, but it doesn't communicate all of the stuff that the beginning piper might need to know where they're taking their time from. For example, looking at that first full measure, in the bottom section we have a G grace note to E, followed by a grip to another E, and that note before the grip is a quarter note. When you look up above at the other section, you can see that it's actually a dotted 8th note, and that the grip is actually taking its time away from that note before it, and that the low Gs in that grip are real 30-second notes, not grace notes, because you need to hear them. So I'm going to play this section twice. The first time with the fully written out ornaments, the third section here, the next time with the ornaments as normally written in Highland bagpipe music, so you can hear that they're the same thing. Metronome's at 72 now. If you wanted to spell out the rest of this tune on your own, just grab a piece of blank sheet music. It's pretty clear what I did here and how you could take the rest of the tune and spell it out yourself at all the different speeds. But if you wanted that done for you, go ahead. You can purchase the entire tune and play along MP3 files from the link you see here or in the description below, or join at the Thistle level on my Patreon, and you'll have access not only to this tune, but the entire classic series breakdown, which has great tunes like Scott and the Brave, Green Hills, Battle is Over, and I'll keep adding to the library. A special shout out to the members of my Patreon community. You'll see their names now scrolling up along the screen. Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you got something out of this one, check out the classic series breakdown of Scotland the Brave here, or over here we have the Green Hills. Again, 2 very classic tunes you gotta know, gotta get under your fingers. And don't forget, there's always Bagpipe Thief merchandise at my merch store. Till next time, everybody. Cheers.